Hello everyone, welcome to one more part on this adventure through the meaning of sound. We come from exploring the letter K, the sound K of a container that is closed and locked and you need a key to open it. And we go into the letter G. OMG, that's gonna be an interesting one. We have something interesting ahead of us. We are moving along nicely and soon we'll have enough sounds that we can start looking at the whole word and identifying the different parts of the word. Yeah, let's go with the G today. So like the K, very similar to the K, it's a voiced, K was the voiceless velar plosive. Today, the G is a voiced velar plosive. That means that it's vibrating, the vocal folds. So when you do the K, it does not vibrate. When we do the G, 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 it does vibrate. So today we have the voiced velar plosive. Velar because it happens in the back of the throat, and plosive because it's a kind of like a little explosive sound. So like so it cuts and opens the flow of air. However, if you notice, try to do the K and the G and notice the difference between you notice it's much deeper, yeah? Or at least significantly more deeper than the K. And remember that I mentioned about the throat being the hollowness of the throat, the empty space of the throat, and the feeling of that it conveys some kind of container. Well, the G is going deeper, which means that it's gonna go, it's gonna have more weight and more presence than the letter K. So that's what we're gonna be noticing with the meaning of the words. So let's explore this concept of the throat first of all, because more than the K, it goes into the throat and down into the throat, and the throat itself, we call it the gullet. Yeah, this is many of the words that are associated with the throat are connected to the sound of the G, not so much the K. The K is more containers that are closed, but the G is significantly connected to the throat. And so we have gag and gargle and gulp and groan and growl and grunt and gap and gabble. Yeah. So some things come out, like the sound, like a groan or a growl, but some things go in, like gulp, like guzzle, like gobble or gorge or gnaw. So that's like eating, yeah? And of course, the things that go mostly out is sounds and speech. So there's some words linked to that, like gossip, gloat, or grumble. It's a particular kind of sound with the G. Even if it's a speech, it's a particular kind. Yeah? Gossiping and grumbling is different from just talking. And the G, this throat is where not only the food passes through, like gobbling, like gobble food, but it's also where we may choke, where things may get stuck and we cannot swallow them. So gagging, a garrote, I think it's pronounced like that, yeah? This instrument to assassinate someone, yeah? Gaggle and a gash or a gurg or a gulp. And in the middle of the word could be clogging, which we can already look. Clogging, for example, to clog something, we already know all these sounds. Look, K is the container, right? And the container, the L is the liquid. Remember, L is a liquid sound. And it can be light, it can go towards the light, yeah? And so there is this flow of the L, kl, kl, yeah? But the G is gonna swallow it and block it. So the K is also meaning kind of, it could be blockage, but in this case, the G is at the end. So it starts with a container, there is a flow and the flow is blocked, is swallowed, is, you know, like I don't know how to say it, is choked. Yeah, choked. So clock. Yeah, it sounds like that. So this throat, this being the passage between eating food and saying words and shouting and speaking, this passage of the throat, it regulates a lot of what goes in and what goes out. In the body, we say nothing should go through the throat if you are not to swallow that. So, you may smell something, you may taste it, you may put it in your mouth, but if it's not for you, you should spit it out. Don't just swallow it. So the throat should be the filter of what goes in or what goes out into the body. And this G acts like a gateway, like a gate of what goes in and what goes out. And we're going to see that very often we associate this G with things not just from something that is going in, but we are taking it in, we are getting something. And when something is getting out, we are giving something. So getting and giving, and therefore is going to be also associated with the greed of getting and with the generosity of giving. So let's explore this a little bit. And right now we are exploring number 5 because it's the 5th chakra, but from the 5 we're going to go into the up 6, 7, 8, 9 and down for 3 to 1. So it's like going out and going in. It can go in both ways. So getting and greed, we find gather and group. So gather doesn't have to be greedy, right? It doesn't have to be karmic. It can be both karmic and dharmic, but that's the idea that it goes in, yeah? So gathering, grouping or grabbing something, getting and gripping and grasp, glue, grope, garner, glean, gluttony, grapple, grasp, and gain. And that's going in. And in the going out and giving, we have this give and grant and a gift and a glance and a glean and gravity. Well, I'm not sure very much why did I put gravity as in giving, but I'm not sure why I put it in here. Maybe gravity is more like the earth wanting to swallow you, no? Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, so G is the gateway. Yeah, is the gate, and it guards what is going in and what's going out, and it's like a garrison, and it's going to choose what's going in one way or another. It's very different from other sounds. You will notice this aspect of crossing through. But how often do we find sounds which point in two directions at the same time, towards the heaviness and the light, towards the, in this case, in and out, but in a very specific way? Well, in these two directions, when we are gathering and we are giving, it very often the G goes into too much, where it shouldn't belong, and too little where it's needed. Yeah, too much where it doesn't belong, and too little where it's needed. It can be also like a lot, like too much, but in the sense of a lot. But it can also be in a dharmic way. We'll see that in a minute. But when it's too much, let's explore a few words, like a gala, or galore, or galat. Gluttony would also fit in here. Eh? Google, greed, and gobble, and gorge, like eating, like gorging yourself, yeah? Gulping, grappling, and groping. It's like taking too much, holding too much, taking too much for yourself. And there is many types of this too much. So let's explore a few of these. When the too much is in the realm of, and by the way, when we are talking about too much, we are going into the we're talking about the 5. This is the 5th chakra. The 5, it's connected to 10. If you know a little bit about numbers, this is like the circle and the point in the middle, the periphery and the center of the circumference. So when we go from the 5 to the 10, 10 becomes 1 or 0. So it's all or nothing. And that's why it can become too much or not enough. Yeah. And this is how the G connects from the 5 to the 10. And when it's the too much, that 10 will express in many areas. So for example, when we talk, we don't just talk with the G. We gab, we gabble, we gargle, we gas, we glip, and we gossip. So it's generally a feeling of too much. When we laugh, there is we gag, we gale, also gas or giggle or guffaw. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing all the words correctly. I hope so. When we are looking at someone, yeah, that will be with a G, is too much. Yeah, the stare is too much. We gape, we gasp, we gawk, we gaze, we glare, we glint, we glower, and we goggle. So it's not just looking. It's not just look. It's to gape, yeah, to goggle. When we have too much energy and emotion and enthusiasm, it's like a gaga. It's like a geyser. You become giddy and a gimp and glee and glip and groove and with gusto. But when the G, this too much is also emotional, but not in the enthusiastic, but actually more in the anguish kind of sense. It becomes like a grill and a grind and a grip and a groan and a grovel. So all of these sounds is too much, but they have the, there is this G sound, which is like swallowing and maybe hard to swallow. You know, when the grind is too much, we groan. Yeah, it's too difficult to swallow. And we see somebody so beautiful, we gasp. Yeah, so you see the G is gonna affect of how we take in what we are receiving. So that's one of the aspects of the 10 when we go into the too much. But there's also the 0, the 1 or the 0. The 0 is the not enough, to zeroness, yeah, or empty or void or something is gone. Yeah? So in not enough, we're gonna find gangling or a ghetto or gaunt, yeah, like a gaunty figure. And when something is not enough, when there is talking about emptiness, and so there is some void there, that's the 0 of the 10. With the G is expressed like a gap, and you feel this gap, gape, and a gate, and a gauge, a glitch, yeah? Like a glitch in the code, a glitch in the matrix, yeah, like the gutter, gulch, and gush, and gorge, a grotto, and a gulf, and a gully. So it implies some empty space. And again, we're talking about the throat, very connected also with the K, with this aspect of a space, some sort of a space. And so it can be into too much filling the space, or not enough, or too much emptiness, if you wish. This aspect that it is gone, when something is gone, something has been zeroed, like the 0 of the 10, it can be like gag and gallows, gangrene. Yeah, we're talking about death now. Yeah, death is 8, but 8 also turns into 10, and 8 is also linked to the polarity. 8 is also like giving a lot, like infinite giving. So we are between the realms of the 2 and the 8 and the 10 with the 1 and the 0. We are moving in that area. But yeah, the gallows, yeah? Gangrene, again the garrote, if you remember, for killing. And when somebody is dead, then we go into the grave, and then we grieve, and maybe we feel guilt. And if we want to kill, we can use a gun or a guillotine. So there's plenty of zeroing somebody with the G sound. And you see the G is going to become really dark really soon. You'll see when it becomes the not enough and the void, it becomes pretty dark, because after you die, you become a ghost, and you'll see a ghost or a ghoul or a goblin or a golem in the grave. There is grimming. Yeah, it's grimy. It's grim. Like how is it called? Death, the Grim Reaper. Yeah, the Grim Reaper. Gremlins and ghastly figures. All these gloomy things, yeah, they make us feel like that, a little bit gloomy and scary and sad all together. Let's see. Gloom and gall and glum and grag and grief, a grimace, Yeah? Just listening to these sounds of the G makes us grimace and groan. Oh my God. Grudge and gruel and drugs like grog or grass. All right, so the G words are often gross or gaudy, things that are hard to swallow. And if you meet them, you may swallow if you meet them. Oh my God, what is this? Yeah? Or what you become if you swallow those things. Yeah? So it's something that is hard to swallow, or when you see it makes you swallow, or what you become if you swallow them. So it's very, very connected to the throat. So you'll see that something is gunky or grotesque. Yeah, it makes this, it's hard to swallow. You see a grotesque image, it's like, what's that, right? Grim, glop, or gooey, or gore, grisly. Oh my God, those things, yeah, disgusting. The face turns, yeah, it becomes very visceral, yeah. Grub, having to eat the grub, yeah. Guk and gunk and gruel. Yeah, horrible thing to swallow, yeah. And again, the scary things, yeah, the ghost, the gorgon, the goon, and the grimace and the grunt. Yeah. It makes us grimace. Ugh. And the gorgon, which turns you to stone, right? If you look at it. Yeah. So G is a pretty dark sound. When it goes into the 0 of the 10, the 5 to the 10, yeah? When it goes into the 0, it becomes really dark and hard to swallow. But when it goes into the 10, I did mention that it can be too much, like galore and greed and grope, but it can also be great and grand. So it can be the 10 in the highest possible version of the most dharmic high representation of the G. So grand and glory, and we are glad, and of course, God, yeah? I mean, what's bigger than that? And what comes from God? Well, the grace and the gift and the grant, and we are grateful, something good for sure, and a garden, and a garland of flowers from the garden, and girls dancing in glens and glades, and gliding over the heavens, yeah? And the sky turns gold, and the gospel sounds, and the Holy Grail manifests. The groom and the girl, yeah? Marry together. That's also a number of 10, yeah? And then there's guests for the wedding, and a guide, and gurus, and goals. So very high numbers, very high qualities, yeah, of this 10. And of course, we know about 10. 10 is also the number of the light, and we saw that with the L when we got to the L. But with the G, it also manifests, and actually, G with the L, it's a really strong combination, which implies there is light, but the light is being reflected on something. It's not just shining forth, but is reflected on something. So you will have a glow. So this is the G with the L together. Now I'm combining two sounds. We will do this more and more as we advance, and then we will do another section of this video specific for combining sounds. But I'm starting to introduce it, yeah? So with G with the L is something that reflects the light or brings the light. So glow or glare or glint or glitter, glistens, gild, gloss, and glaze. Very, very, very interesting. So many words with the G and the L, and you can see it's just a surface, and the light is being reflected upon it. So it suggests that the G itself is not the 10, but the G is like a medium. 5 is the medium, right? It's the medium number, the number in the middle. Is a medium for the 10 to flow through, just like the throat is the medium for the words to come through. And that can manifest as too much or too little, or we want more, or there is an emptiness inside. So very interesting, the two aspects of the G. And if you think of a G as the light, then of course this too much of the light can be this grandiosity of the glory of God. and not too much, you cannot have enough of that, but it's like a lot of that. And when there is not of that, then there is the darkness of the gloomy and the ghostly and the grim and the golem and all those goblin things, yeah? So you can see both aspects with the G, very interesting. Now, we always do when the sound is at the end of the word, that would be the letter G at the end, would be when there is a sense of a final heft or a stop, like drag or tug or jog or whack or swag. But that G at the end, even when it stops something, even when an action has been stopped, because the G has so much connection to the throat, and it's also a voiced, how do you call that? Velar plosive, remember? Voiced velar plosive. This voiced sound means that whatever has been stopped, it continues to resonate in some way. So, look, hold on. A nag, a zing, a brag, a sling, to hang or to bang. Even if it's hanging, it stays there. You can feel it. Yeah, the bang, a bang, like a big bang, bang. You can feel there is some sort of echo after that. The G at the end is like resonates in somehow the vibration. I was thinking of doing the G. Let's do. I'm going to add another letter here. I was going to do something only the G, but we're going to do the NG as well, because when the G is at the end, we have also the sound Ong, which we chant a lot in yoga. Ong Namo Gurudev Namo. And that sound is mostly at the end of the word. Could be at the middle as well, but it doesn't occur in the beginning. So let's take that one as well. And I will add it to the title of the video. And the NG sound is like N with the G. And so L, N, it's also like a liquid sound. It's a liquid nasal sound. We haven't got to the end yet, but it doesn't matter too much for the purpose of this sound. But it's also voiced and velar. So, so there's the liquid nasal ending in this voiced and velar sound. And it's a long, drawn out and continuing sound. It's drawn out, it's continuous, right? It's enduring. And so it's linked, because the N is liquid and continuous, and the G is the. So we have it to convey meanings like long, prolong, and belong, and a lifelong journey, along the tracks, and longing. And so there is this enduring sound, these enduring qualities, and that's also linked to being, the sense of being, like something that is nothing, or everything, or meaning, something that carries on, some qualities that carry on. Where I mentioned already that when the sound finishes with the G, it has some sort of resonance. When this sound also contains the N, it's even stronger, the resonance and the vibration, because the N gives it that quality. So sing and ring and gong and ping and ding and clank and bang. There's all these things which resonate and make sound, again connected to the 5. We also have, and we're going kind of between the 5 and we're moving into the 2 and the 8. And the 8 is about power. And we can find the bang that we mentioned before, or the king, or the strong is somebody who holds that power for the long time. Yeah, the king has this power. Also within the number 8, we have the qualities of attachment and suspension. The sound ong is like you are attaching to the N and you are hanging from that N. You are suspended from an N and is not really fully realizing. So hong, yeah? So hanging something, or slinging, or fling, or swing. Yeah? And ring, to ring something as well. Yeah? Like when you have a cloth and you're trying to get the water out, and there's always one more drop, so you're this which is almost like the throat, ring in the throat. Yeah, it's the G has this aspect that it can kill you if you're not careful with it. So very interesting. As I was looking at this, many words finishing in ng, I came upon some words from Chinese which end in ng, and unfortunately I cannot read Chinese, but I will just show them like this. These are my notes. Yes. So I was looking at the ng linked to the 2, 5, and the 8. The longing of the 2 and the 8 of the power and attachment. When you have these Chinese words, Chang, Wang, Zhang, Wang, Shang, I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce, but they convey some sort of extension, but in the spatial realm, not so much on the sound, like hanging on the sound, but it can be long, it can be wide, it can be to stretch, something vast and to swell. So some sort of extension on the spatial realm. And I just found it interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to focus on the English language, but if something comes up and is interesting, I will include it and we will continue to explore. If you know a different language and you have some interesting words to bring in with the G and the G at the end and the NG, please write them down in the comments, and so we build our vocabulary. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you all the subscribers. If you like the video, don't forget to like it. If you want to subscribe, if you haven't done so yet, please do so. And thank you to all the members as well. Until next video, Satam.